25, and Anita Anand is not seeking re-election. She doesn't want to be the leader of the Liberal Party. She wants to go back to academia. She doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Bye-bye. See you later. She's gone. Another one bites the dust. The rats are fleeing the sinking ship. So that's interesting because Justin Trudeau seems to be trying to float it with the lifeboats or something. I'm not sure exactly. There's a whole bunch of write-ups that talk about how Justin Trudeau could retain power for much longer in a whole bunch of configurations, and also how Mark Carney could be waltzed in because he's appointed, not elected. So all of these things are very interesting, what's going on. And Mark Carney, I've got a whole load of Mark Carney stories. There's CCP connections. There's Maxwell connections, and we've talked about that before. There's net zero connections, and he'd be worse than Trudeau, like orders of magnitude worse than Trudeau, I think. John A. Macdonald's birthday was yesterday, and so there are a whole bunch of people wishing him a happy birthday. They're trying to uncancel him, right? Trying to wind back the clock and make Canadian culture great again, or something like that. And that's Pierre Poilievre and some conservatives I've seen. Greenland's leader is up for negotiations with Trump. So look for Canada to join in the negotiations soon. Grocery stores in the United Kingdom come out in favor of the farmers. Actually, just one, but I think it's Morrison's or something like that. And so they're saying, yeah, we stand with the farmers. And I think it's van der Leyen, or it is the other one who looks like van der Leyen, but is not her, but is the leader of the European Bank. It's one of those two. And they're talking about the digital euro is coming. It's on the march, but don't worry, cash or digital, it's up to you, is the slogan. And I think that that's really funny because obviously not, like maybe at first, but it won't stay that way, right? Oh yes, if you want to use cash, there's a $50 surcharge and $120 additional fee and all sorts of other like things. I think that they're just going to phase cash out once they get people used to digital. Like we're already used to digital. We're already doing it pretty much. But they want to phase, they want to break the connection between cash and digital or something. I'm not sure exactly, but it seems like you put money into your bank account and then you use a credit card thing to pay for everything. The money as cash usually doesn't touch your hands, right? Unless you're going out to a bar or something like that. And even then, who goes out to bars these days? Anyway, I digress. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Pierre Poilievre is saying yesterday, we honor Sir John A. Macdonald, Canada's first prime minister, on his birthday. A nation builder, he brought Canada together through Confederation and the Canadian Pacific Railway, laying the foundation for a strong and prosperous country. Without his vision, Canada would not exist today. Happy birthday, Sir John A. So there you go. He's saying happy birthday. And Stephen Taylor says, happy birthday, Sir John A. Macdonald. We're uncanceling him in 2025. So there you go. He's, birth father of Confederation and all that. Here's Adam Zivo, and he says, the Toronto Star published an op-ed that used misleading data to claim that Canada's economy soared under Justin Trudeau. In my latest National Post column, I debunk their disinformation with statistics that account for inflation and population growth. We're not going to go through it, but the Liberals have a bad habit of projecting what they want and then getting people to write about what they want is reality when that's not the case at all. And then when people actually dig into reality, the picture that they find is very different than the picture painted by the glowing news articles from the Toronto Star, right? And it turns out that they're just lying, right? They're using misleading data and all sorts of other things like that. So it's interesting. Mark says, Canada, I need you to understand this. Our economy is fake. Our currency is trash. Our GDP is a lie. Our statistics are faked. Our job growth is BS. Our country is in complete ruin, and it's being covered up and ignored. So was anywhere else aware that these 40,000 new jobs, quote, new jobs in the public sector that were posted in December in the public sector are actually complete smoke and mirrors? I sure didn't see this coming. And then he says, yes, I did. In December 2024, StatsCan claimed the public sector grew by 40,000 jobs. I did some digging trying to figure out how they came to this hiring spree. Well, let's take a look. And essentially, picture one shows that you will, hold on. In the first one, the posting closes in January, but the applications won't be pulled until July. And then further down on the job posting, it says, when you apply to this selection process, you're not applying to a specific job, but to an inventory for future vacancies. As positions become available, applicants who meet the qualifications may be contacted for further assessment. So essentially, and he breaks it down in the text. He says, so let's say 10,000 people applied for this one posted job. Out of those 10,000, 600 candidates were a, quote, good fit for the RCMP. What the regime does is they hire those 600 candidates, but only one out of the 600 hired actually gets the job. The remaining 599 hired are still counted as job growth data. So when they say they created 40,000 new public sector jobs, what they actually mean is we hired 40,000 people, but only 100 out of those 40,000 are actually working a real job. The remaining 39,900 are on deck, but we still count them as hired towards the country's job growth and economy. The level of deception, fraud, and corruption and downright treason has become the standard of government at all levels across the country. It's soon going to come absolutely crashing down. A population that is so blind and ignorant as to what's actually happening will be decimated into oblivion, and I don't think we come back from this one. So it's interesting. I don't know. I don't have any other data to corroborate his breakdown. It seems plausible, but again, I'd like to see more on it, right? I'm not saying slam dunk, this is exactly what they're doing and this is how they're doing it. He seems very convinced, and I think there's probably something to look at here. And the universe delivers here. He says, a little follow-up. Guys, the Trudeau Freeland Liberals just said they hired 40,000 people for new jobs in December 2024. I direct your attention below. Canada, 559 total job openings in the federal government. This was updated 2024, 12/13. So that was the middle of the month in December 2024. They really do think we're stupid. So this is even more convincing evidence. And again, it's never a slam dunk. Take it with a grain of salt, of course. It seems like, yeah, they did hire 600 people and claim that 40,000 got hired. So weird, right? I mean, wow. I'm shocked, except I'm not really all that shocked. But yeah, that's the top number of job postings, 559. If you go to the website, right, there you go. Yeah, plausible, very, very plausible. So they're just using bad statistics to lie to us on purpose about how strong our economy is by orders of magnitude. Like 600 jobs is a lot different than 40,000 jobs, right? Crazy. CBC Watcher says, Canada is likely headed into a period of fiscal restraint, the likes of which we have not seen since the 1990s when Jean Chrétien's Liberals imposed program cuts and layoffs to slash the deficit. Many Canadians have never experienced that type of austerity. Thanks to Trudeau, they're about to. This would have been easier pill to swallow if Trudeau's government has been focusing on boosting productivity and revenue, but the government's record in this area is also underwhelming. Yeah, underwhelming is, not quite fully, it's not a good enough word to fully describe what's happened to our country. CTV News is saying Jean Chrétien's weighing in on this whole thing about 51st state, and he says it's not realistic. Former Prime Minister Chrétien thinks Trump will back off trade war. And it's not realistic. What's not realistic about it? I mean, it's interesting. Jean Chrétien doesn't want Canada to be sold to the United States, but didn't he sell Canada to China back in his day? Isn't that, no? Do you know Project Sidewinder? Here's Project Sidewinder. This was buried by Chrétien's RCMP in 1997. They didn't want to deal with the implications of what the report said. Oh, what did it say, you ask? Good question. I've read it before, but I'll read it again. Just highlights. It's not very long. Really, you could read it in probably 40 minutes, not even. You wouldn't need 40 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Immigration to Canada, number 7. Canada has always been a preferred destination for the people of Hong Kong. It's estimated that 100,000 Canadians live on the peninsula, and most of them are natives of the city. Hong Kong alone has been, for the last 10 years, the top source of immigration to Canada, with over 500,000 Hong Kong people now living here and accounting for 22% of all immigration to Canada. Over half of the 66,000 persons, I'm sure it's 66,000 persons, who left Hong Kong in 1996 came to Canada. To that must be added 17,000 students, to a fifth of all foreign students in Canada. 8 among legitimate immigrants in recent years. Some persons affiliated with or members of the Chinese triads have succeeded in slipping in and obtaining Canadian citizenship. Several triad officers and their associates even have family members residing in Canada. Their choice of Canada was no accident. The country is an excellent place to invest in companies to launder the profits derived from criminal activities while securing a portion of their assets outside Hong Kong and obtaining a Canadian passport. Most of these individuals are members or associates of the upper echelons of the triads and own or run large businesses in Hong Kong. As part of their secret agreements reached with the Beijing leadership, these triads now use their Canadian acquisitions to engage in illegal activities such as intimidating individuals, identifying potential sources of facilitating visits of Chinese delegations on behalf of China. And another part of the article talks about infiltrating businesses and gaining control. Hold on, I'll find it. Here it is. It's in the intro, I guess. By using these alliances, the Chinese government is trying to gain influence on Canadian politics by maximizing their presence over some of the country's economic levers. To that end, they proceed initially to buy and or legally set up a company in Canada that, once under their control, buys other companies, and so on. An effective domino effect ensues that acts like a well-spun web or network at strategic points. It's estimated that over 200 Canadian companies in 1997 have passed into Chinese influence or ownership since the early 1980s, and that's as of 1997, so it's probably more than 200 now. Through the triads, tycoons, or China national companies. These businesses are found in various sectors of the economy, ranging from multinationals to banking, high technology, and real estate. CITIC, Nordico, Husky Oil, Grand Alex Properties, Merrill Lynch, Gordon Capital Inc., Tai Fung International, CIBC, Ramada Hotels, China Vision, and Semitech Corporations, etc., implying there's more. The triad companies are also used to pursue their criminal activities, such as money laundering, heroin trafficking, as well as assistance to the CHLS. And I'm sure the heroin trafficking has evolved to fentanyl trafficking because it's easier to make and synthetic, and you can build a lab in Canada and just have one guy arrested when the whole thing goes tits up, right? So super duper interesting. But John Chrétien looked the other way with this report, buried this report. And you can read it now, right? And so, like, if only we knew how bad it really is. It was bad in 1997. It's worse now. And does it seem like we're on the track to fix things? No, heck no, absolutely not. We're in a bad way. And like, why are we in such trouble? Could it be because we've been infiltrated by people who don't have Canada's best interests at heart in mind and are leading us to disaster, right? Have already led us to disaster. Globe and Mail, moving on, let's talk about leadership, because Justin Trudeau's stepping down sort of weirdly, kind of. Globe and Mail says Justin Trudeau will leave behind a weaker nation. Yes, he's done a terrible, awful job. The Toronto Sun says Mr. Mess Up. That's the Toronto Sun front page for Sunday, right? Today, January 12th. And it says, we look at Justin Trudeau's worst blunders and embarrassments of his scandal-plagued reign. And so there you go. That's going through the history of Justin Trudeau and all the terrible things that he has done to Canada. Kirk is highlighting the rats leaving the sinking ship. Anita Anand is the latest one, and she says, please see my statement. And Kirk says, you have to understand just how badly Justin Trudeau destroyed the Liberal Party and its brand. The politicians who were at one point top picks for important portfolios and even party leadership are not only have no interest in running for the leadership anymore, but also are no longer interested in running for the party again. Anita Anand has announced that just as she won't seek re-election. So she doesn't want leadership, she doesn't want re-election. This is why I never wanted the narcissist Trudeau to resign. The damage he has done and is doing to the party is colossal. And, well, I mean, the damage is already done, right? So this is Anita Anand's statement. She says, I'm just going to read the important parts. Today, I'm announcing that I will not be entering the race to become the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada and will not be seeking re-election as the Member of Parliament for Oakville. I will continue to honorably execute my role as public office holder until the next election. And she goes on to say, before I was an MP and running things, I was an academic at the University of Toronto, and I'm on leave, and I'm probably going to go back. And she's doing it at the same time because it's a good time because Justin Trudeau's stepping down, so good time for her to go too. So there you go. I'm not reading the whole thing, so apologies. Link is in the description if you do want to read the whole thing, but that's the important part. The rest is kind of just fluff, and I don't think I could possibly care less about the details of Anita Anand and what she has to say, how she wants to frame her leaving. Period. Okay, moving on. Lion Advocacy says, as Minister of Public Service and Procurement, Anita Anand signed a contract with Pfizer for the COVID-19 shot. The contract explicitly stated that the long-term safety effects and efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines were not known. She remained silent as the government hid this fact and contractual term. I come with receipts, people. Section 5.5, page 18, imagine remaining silent as Justin Trudeau and other MPs exerted more and more coercive force to get people to take this thing. Abandoning her MP post is a good start, but it's not enough. Well, no. I mean, are we going to have accountability? If we don't have accountability, it's going to happen again. So fingers crossed for accountability, but goodness me, we're bad at that. We're really bad at that. So fingers crossed that we do that we have accountability and we hold these people accountable, but we're much more likely to throw Chris Barber, Tamara Litch, and all of the people who are currently under lawfare from the government in jail, then we actually prosecute the government who did the damage. See what I'm saying? Unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong about that, right? Kian says, Christy Clark is so stupid that she literally accused the Conservative Party of fabricating documents, and all they had to do was Control F on an Excel spreadsheet to prove that she's a lifelong liar. Short-term thinker, long-term moron. So after I showed you kind of all sorts of evidence that she said that she got the ballots in the mail, and she said that she voted for, or had intentions of voting for Jean Charest in the CPC leadership race, et cetera, and like waxed poetic about how he was going to be the best prime minister and so on. And then she said, no, I didn't actually vote. No, that's fake news. I didn't do that. I didn't join the Conservatives. I didn't vote. Nothing happened there. Now she's walking that back. She says, well, I misspoke. Shit happens. Lesson learned. I've always been clear that I supported Jean Charest to stop Pierre Poilievre, not backing away from that. He's the most divisive politician. Pivot, right? It's a pivot here. We've seen in years, and I felt it was my duty as a Canadian to stop him in his tracks. I'm thinking carefully about running because he still needs to be stopped. But if we want to do that, our party has to accept change. Sticking with the status quo is a losing strategy. They're arguing to maintain the status quo. They're arguing to maintain what they're doing right now, and which is very status quo and what most people desperately do not want, right? If you believe the polls. And I mean, again, I don't believe the polls, but a lot of people are not backing the Liberals just anecdotally. Like you talk to people out and about and make a joke about Justin Trudeau, make a joke about what's going on. People will tell you how much they hate the current government, right? It's not just polls that are indicating that these guys are done. Mark Nixon is highlighting Ryan Garrettson's post. Garrettson said, the list is getting smaller. Who's going to drop out next? If you're dropping $350,000, you better be sure you're going to win, which is also why they did that. Only a couple of people are willing to risk that amount, right? $100,000, no problem, right? What's the carrying cost of that? Next to nothing, right? Okay, I'm going to run for leadership. $350,000. Now we're talking a medium-sized mortgage, right? Medium-sized. $350,000 mortgage when I was a kid was a mansion, right? I think the mortgage on my childhood home, when we got my childhood home, which was like mid 80s, was $59,000. And it was a new build, and it didn't have a garage, unfinished basement. My parents were going to finish the basement. They did. And we did a good job. We put a bathroom down there, no powder room on the main floor, right? In order to get to a bathroom, you had to go downstairs or upstairs. So forward thinking, not our thing. Well, not the builder's thing. But like $60,000, like sure, hook me up, sign me up for 10 of those babies, right? Like cheers, screws. We didn't have air conditioning. The only air conditioning we could get was the window ones because it was electronic heat. It was radiator heat instead of, because this was the 80s, so energy was going to be super, super cheap, right? So we don't need to insulate. We'll just put radiators in. They can run the radiators all the time. And anyway, it was expensive when the electricity went up and we got fireplaces. But it was $60,000. You know what I mean? Like $350,000 is not a medium-sized mortgage. I digress, leadership. But anyway, Anita Anand's out. Mel Jolie's out. Christy Clark is all but out. She's a liar, and people just, you can't vote for that. She's out. She's done. Champagne is actually in, or he just hasn't said he's not doing it, right? I guess he's kind of one of the people in the running. It's going to be Freeland and Mark Carney. That's it. Freeland's been saving up she's got a piggy bank saved up for leadership fees, right? To toss her hat in the ring, I'm sure. And when that witch's hat gets tossed in the ring, right? The pointy one, the black one, that's Chrystia Freeland's hat. And she definitely wants leadership of the Liberal Party. So it'll be between her and Carney. And Carney's yellow teeth are just absolutely, look at this. Look. Do you see why he's unelectable? I can't even look at it. His teeth are just awful. Just Me Kim says, it should be a bigger deal that Mark Carney's hanging out with Madam Maxwell, right? Like it shouldn't be, plus the finance guy here. What is he, BlackRock? I think he's BlackRock. I think he's like one of the VPs on BlackRock or something like that. But I can't remember exactly. He's a high-placed guy. This was from 2013. Just Me Kim says, interesting, the Wilderness Festival on Cornbury Park, Oxfordshire, Britain, 10th of August, 2013. Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, at the event with his wife, far right, and friends, right? Follow the wives, just might have something here. So she's friends with who? Maxwell's friends with the wife? Right, so they're just hanging out in England. Maxwell's like, oh, what does Mark Carney think about, all of these interesting details? Does he like Jimmy Savile? Right? Would he like to go to an island with my friend Jeffrey? right? What do you mean friends? And why isn't this a problem for Mark Carney, right? Like, why is this just being kind of glossed over? And it is being glossed over, although the Sun Media published it, so that's something. Andy Lee is highlighting Mark Carney and Brookfield. Brookfield is Carney's company, and Vivian is highlighting this. Brookfield is the largest partner of Neil Shen in Sequoia China Infrastructure Fund, SCIF. Neil Shen is a representative of the CPPCC, the CCP's Standing Advisory Committee. Mark Carney is stuck in the CCP's grip. And Andy Lee highlights the details. She says Brookfield's partner Neil Shen at Sequoia is best known for backing ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese parent company, currently being investigated by the U.S. Justice Department as a national security risk for spying on Americans for Chinese Communist Party officials. So, yikes, right? Not only does he have yellow teeth, but seems to be interested in helping China, right? Which has nothing to do with the color yellow. Bruce says, Mark Carney tells a WEF Davos panel that money should be spent on absolutely essential technologies to get us to net zero. He promotes Bill Gates as someone who is leading on such technologies. Mark Carney's job will be to further divert new Canadian debt to make people like Bill Gates a lot richer, while we all become poverty slaves to high rent, energy, food, and travel prices. So if you're all in on freedom-busting pandemic mandates, reducing cow farts and 15-minute community slums, Mark Carney is a guy for you. The last thing Canada needs are more WEF members in our government and leadership roles. So this is 33 seconds of Mark Carney talking at this conference, talking just all net zero all the time, new technologies that we need to bring in. And in order to bring in net zero, they need to be able to monitor everything that you do, right? And so that's what they're talking about. It's absolutely necessary in order to get what we want. And what we want is, full control, complete and utter control of everything. Here we go.
Let me turn to you, Mark.
These offsets can also be catalytic as part of helping the economics of absolutely essential breakthrough technologies that need to happen for us to ultimately get to net zero. And I'm sure that will come up more clearly because Bill Gates has led on those technologies.
Carbon Markets, a conversation with Bill Gates, Mark Carney, Anand Nazareth, and Bill Winters. My name is Nicole Schwab. I'm the co-director of the Platform to Accelerate Nature-Based Solutions at the World Economic Forum, and I will be your moderator for this session.
Nicole Schwab, is she Klaus's daughter or wife? She kind of looks like Klaus, maybe daughter. Family business, right? Ryan Garrettson says, this is a dangerous man. In a normal world, not a single Canadian would vote for this person. Unfortunately, it's not a normal world, as there are still Liberal Party supporters. Bots and people who owe their jobs to the Liberal Party because the Liberal Party is the only group of people who would hire them, and only for economic stimulus, really, right? So here is Nate Erskine Smith talking to self-admitted WEF financier, globalist banker to the stars, Mark Carney. Okay. And so Mark Carney says, listen, I know how the system works. And he may know how the system works, but he's talking about taking the Canadian system and fitting it into the net zero system. And he may know how it all works, but he doesn't understand that Canadians don't want that, even a little tiny bit, at all. Here is this back and forth. It's 3 minutes. We may have to we're going to listen to more of it than usual. Usually I try and aim for about a minute clip, but it's going to be a little longer than that. So here we go.
The question I would have is, do you see a value in elected office as a backbencher or as an MP before a higher profile role?
I mean, you can't map these things out. Of course,
Sure.
there's value in that. But let me pick up something popped into my head while you were using that example. So one of the knocks on me that the opposition makes, or part of the opposition
makes. A WEF global elite.
Exactly. I'm a WEF global elite.
John Barrett is too, but I don't know. Campaign coach here, that never comes up. When he's banned his ministers from going to World Economic Forum events to cater to conspiracies, and you've been a board member for over a decade.
I've rolled off the board, but that's absolutely right. I had a board member there, and I used to go there with Prime Minister Stephen Harper when he was there, and etc. But let's be clear what my international experience. I understand how the world works. I know other world leaders. I know people and understand. I know people who run some of the world's largest companies and understand how they work. I know how financial institutions work. I know how markets work. I have
an accountant. And I'm pretty sure I'd trust my accountant and his assessment over what's going on than like Mark Carney, right? And you know, world leaders, like after you become the prime minister and then you start going to conferences, you meet world leaders, right? If you're an international banker, if you're a globalist international banker, you're going to meet lots of world leaders. I don't know that I want that person representing me just because he knows how things work. You know, it would benefit them to teach me how things work. When I walk in and say, hi, my name's Mark, I'm representing Canada, and I have access to all the oil and all the resources and everything that you guys want. So tell me how this all works, and I'll get you access to that oil and resources, and you give me all the things that I usually get for that stuff. Like, honestly, it's one of those like international trade, sure, it's complicated, but I mean, I play Civilization. It's not quite that easy. But like, come on, it's not that hard either. You know what I mean? Somebody figured it out. The first time you put a government together, it's not like, hold on, we're the most experienced guys. It's like, hey, kill those guys over there because I'm sure we could do a better job than those idiots. Okay? That's how this thing works. I don't want Mark Carney. I don't want his experience. Get lost, Mark Carney. You're a globalist and you have yellow teeth. No, I don't need your help. We don't want your help. Go away. Go away. Just because you know how it works, get lost. Get lost. What a maniac. Melissa says another Carney scandal. Canada as Carney's company, scandal Canada as Carney's company accused of massively underreporting emissions. Meanwhile, Carney pushes execs and policymakers around the world to achieve net zero. So if he knows how it works, he can presumably manipulate it to his ends, not tell us about those extra emissions. Oh yeah, hide that in the report. Put that at the bottom of the report. And I know how it works. Put it down in an accordion, so they'll have to expand it. Nobody will ever know, right? They don't know how accordions work, but I know how accordions work. Ha ha ha. So Carney will hide it using his expertise. Where I just want transparency. Forget it, right? I'm going to publish the numbers. I'm going to publish the numbers at the end of every week. It's going to be public. And if I screw up, tell me because I want to fix it. Because hey, I want Canada to do well, right? Because when Canada does well, you do well, and I do well, and everybody does well. So I don't want Mark Carney's expertise. I don't want his yellow teeth. I don't want his lies, okay? Like, honestly, jeepers creepers. So Mark Carney's company is accused of massively underreporting emissions. I'm shocked, I tell you. I'm completely shocked by this. Holy cow, I can't believe how shocked I am by this. Jason Levine is highlighting how Mark Carney could become the prime minister just by appointment, because that's kind of how things work. Important message for all Canadians, he says. Yes, Mark Carney can become prime minister without a seat or a single vote. And in an emergency, he can stay prime minister until September 2026. How? With Mark Carney clearly making moves for the Liberal Party leadership, already securing 30 MPs. Yeah, I heard that as well. He's got 30 MPs behind him. That's what Jody Wilson-Raybould should have done before she came to Trudeau with, hey, you're a corrupt liar and we want you gone. She thought truth would do that. Nuh-uh. Power does that. You have to go collect people and you have to say, like Kevin Spacey in House of Cards, you go around, I think it's House of Cards, you go around and you collect up support. And then if they don't support you, then you send your fixers in, right? Like you send people to break fingers and stuff, proverbially. Anyway, he's got 30 MPs and talking with the media and is clearly a strong front runner. He's got the money, he's got the resources, he's got support. Many Canadians are about to receive a huge surprise and a shock. It's a common misconception that the Prime Minister of Canada must be a member of Parliament. Not true. The Prime Minister is appointed, not elected, to the position by the Governor General. Mark Carney can win the Liberal Party leadership and be appointed to the role of Prime Minister. Canada has done this once before. The 17th Prime Minister, John Turner, in 1984, he left politics a decade earlier and returned to succeed Pierre Trudeau as the leader of the Liberal Party and was then appointed Prime Minister by the Governor General without holding a seat in the House of Commons. I've attached some information if you don't know anything about John Turner. He was the Prime Minister for a few months in 1984. Is history about to repeat itself? Trudeau resigns and Canada gets a non-elected Prime Minister. I think that's exactly what's about to happen. I predict the 24th Prime Minister will be unelected, Mark Carney. Also, did you know that constitutionally in Canada, terms can be up to 5 years, meaning making the next forced election date September 20th, 2026. The next question is, how are they going to stall the election? Clearly, the Liberal Party will want some rebound time to clean the Trudeau stink before the next election. Well, there really are two ways to stall the next election in Canada. One, avoid a confidence loss, so make a deal with the NDP or the Bloc. Two, delaying the election in an emergency. This includes economic emergencies, such as a U.S. president threatening economic force and imposing harmful tariffs against Canada. So if we ignore Trump's 25% tariff and blow through that date on the 20th, and they impose the tariffs, they can use that as the emergency they need to maintain control and power for the next year and a bit. We could be stuck with the Liberals for another 20 months under non-elected Prime Minister Carney. I do pray I'm wrong about this. And in that situation, well, hopefully experience counts, and Poilievre is able to do to Carney what he's done to Trudeau, which is stop his legislative progress completely, right? Filibuster. And if he's able to filibuster, which I don't see why not procedurally, right? But if he's able to filibuster, then he will be able to stop them getting their C-63 through. But they need C-63. They don't want to go into an election without C-63. That's the linchpin. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful